Station. This is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, I am ready for the event.
ESA, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
ISS, this is Denmark. DTU, can you hear us?
Hello, I've got you loud and clear, and welcome to the International Space Station.
Thank you very much. Hi, Andreas. Thank you for taking time to speak with us today. We're around 1,000 people today. Can you tell us, where are you currently?
We are somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, flying southeast down towards South Africa before we turn northeast again over Southeast Asia. So somewhere over the Atlantic.
Sweet. As an astronaut, part of your job is to conduct experiments and collect data for various research projects. Is there a project that you have done on your mission that has made a particular impression on you?
Well, we have so many high technology experiments up here that every day is exciting. One of my experiments that I'm very fascinated in is the 3D metal printer that you've been discussing today. But we also have something a little bit different, though similar, called the biofabrication facility, which essentially is a 3D printer for human tissues. And that's one of the experiments we've also been working on. And we're trying to print human tissues or simulants of organs even. And the idea being that maybe in the future, we will be able to print human organs and use that for transplants instead of relying on organ donors. So some very, very fascinating high technology experiments that we're doing up here.
Things are indeed moving fast here on stage. We just talked to John about making a screwdriver, and now you're talking about human organs. It's a pleasure to watch science in action. But my question in the panel here, we discussed your experiments with VR. In your own words, how has it been using this VR headset to sort of go to another place than the ISS while you've been there?
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite activities on board the space station, using this VR headset. I use it for two things. One is for mental health, where I have a chance to relax, enjoy a scene of from nature on Earth, and just kind of de-stress, catch my breath. And the second thing I use it for is exercising. It can be combined with our bicycle on the space station. And then I can bike 5 different routes in Denmark, including a mountain bike trail in Silkeborg, a trail around the lakes in central Copenhagen, a trail along the beach in Jutland. And it's absolutely one of my favorite things to do because it makes me feel like I'm out in nature, riding on my bike rather than sitting on a stationary bicycle on board the space station. It's also a lot more motivating because it's tied in with the mechanical system of the bicycle. So when it looks like I'm biking uphill, I feel that I need to put in more power into the pedals. And when I'm biking downhill inside the VR headset, it becomes easier. And so it's coupled together that way for a really immersive experience that is just, it takes me out of the space station and puts me into nature, and I love it.
So 2 follow-up questions to that. How do you feel it has affected you? And do you keep the headset to yourself, or do you let your colleagues use it also?
Well, it certainly improves my mental health, I would say, and also just my just daily life up here, because I feel like I get to go out into nature once in a while. And my crewmates have tried it. They can also use it, and they love it as well. It really makes, especially biking, much more pleasant. Rather than sitting staring into a blank wall and trying to motivate yourself, this really makes a huge difference.
And now, of course, all your colleagues can see our beautiful country and beautiful biking routes. I'm curious, the current comfort level on the space station, or maybe lack thereof, could you give a guesstimate of how long you would say you could reasonably stay in space?
Well, it's difficult to say because I think humans are remarkably resilient. We are capable of much more than we imagine on a daily basis. So I don't think that we as humans will be the weakest link when we are exploring space. Now, having said that, there's a difference between surviving and living, and having virtual reality that lets you imagine or feel like you're back on Earth, feel like you're back with your family, or feel like you're back in nature, can really improve sort of your mental well-being, your psychological well-being, and I think can do make a tremendous improvement overall. So it's definitely something that we can use.
I just spoke to John, and he was very excited about 3D printing. Do you have any updates for John? How is his 3D printer?
Well, the good news, I was able to successfully install it in our Columbus laboratory this week, so it is all set to go. What we're now waiting for is a checkout and commissioning phase, which will be run primarily from our European Columbus control center located just outside of Munich. That checkout and commissioning phase will probably take a couple of weeks, meaning that most likely, unfortunately, I'll be back on Earth before we're ready to actually print something. But it just means that I'll be able to follow along from Earth and see the next crew, Expedition 71, get a chance to actually do the printing. But otherwise, the printer is set up and it's ready to get checked out.
We trust that some of your colleagues will bring home prints for John. You touched upon it just before about expectations and 3D printing potentially of human organs, but sticking to the metal, what are your expectations concerning that technology when it comes to space?
Well, that certainly is a potential big game changer for spaceflight. On board the International Space Station, we are very reliant on resupply from Earth. At least once a month or every 2 months, we receive a cargo vehicle. And on that cargo vehicle is a lot of spare parts. You know, the space station is an incredibly complex structure with lots of electromechanical components that just tend to get worn down over time, which means that we spend a lot of our time maintaining these systems and repairing these systems and replacing parts that are worn out or broken. To truly explore deep space, if we want to go to the moon for long periods of time, and especially if we want to go to Mars, we have to be much more self-sufficient, which also means being able to produce our own spare parts. And metal 3D printing is a key technology there. But it goes beyond human spaceflight. If satellites could print, for example, large booms or solar arrays, that will also lift the restriction on size, because satellites, anything we launch into space, is restricted by the size of the fairing on top of a rocket. And so metal 3D printing, or 3D printing in general, can really enhance what we can achieve and what we can do when it comes to space exploration.
Going over to another one of your projects, the photography thing, the Tort Davies project. We've seen some of your amazing footage. Can you elaborate on some of the challenges with capturing these phenomena?
Well, that's another fascinating experiment that I love to do. And it involves this small camera here, a Davis camera. Now, I mount that, because it doesn't have a view screen or a viewfinder, I mount that on top of a regular Nikon camera. And then I sit in cupola, and I hope that I get to see a big thunderstorm. It's always exciting because you never know what you're going to see. Sometimes it's a very small thunderstorm with just a few lightning, and other times you get out there and it's just an enormous thunder system with lightning going off in all the windows. And really the most difficult part is choosing where to point the camera sometimes, because there's just lightning flashes everywhere, and you just kind of have to cross your fingers and hope that you're pointing the camera in the absolute best direction and you're going to capture one of those elusive red sprites or blue jets.
So besides just being fascinating and pretty photos, how does this data actually inform climate research, you think?
Well, on one level, it's what you could call basic research, right? It's about understanding the planet that we live on and the atmosphere. This is a phenomenon that's not well understood, and so anything we learn about it is going to make us smarter about our planet and the atmosphere. But more specific to your question, we tend to view weather phenomenon as being isolated to the troposphere. Above the troposphere is the stratosphere. Usually we don't see weather phenomena up there, but these giant lightning strikes are a way for weather phenomenon to occur in the stratosphere and to move gaseous molecules from the troposphere up into the stratosphere. For example, water vapor. And water vapor is a very strong greenhouse gas. And so this is a potentially something that we need to understand better and to account for in our climate models if we want to better understand our climate and how it evolves and how it's impacted by things like lightning.
I know it's an impossible task to choose among your favorite children, but if you should, what is the most important contribution you hope that your research on the ISS has been?
Well, I would say it's a little abstract, but I think the most important thing that we're doing up here is preparing for the future, for a better future, a future where we are much more knowledgeable, much more insightful, but also have a much broader horizon. We're up here doing scientific research to improve knowledge, but at the same time, we're also pushing the boundary of human civilization. I hope that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, that we will see humans on the moon and potentially even on Mars. So that's really what I'm hoping that my work on board the International Space Station is leading towards, is a future, a better future, a brighter future, but also a future where humans are exploring space further and deeper than we've done so far.
Obviously, being on the space station is an amazing adventure, for lack of better word. But what do you look forward to in your job professionally when you get back to Earth?
Well, this is an incredibly exciting time in space exploration, not just human space exploration, but in general. And so I look forward to getting back to the Earth and continuing to support our upcoming missions, especially as we return to the moon with the Artemis missions. There's a very good chance that we'll see a European astronaut as part of an Artemis mission to the moon. And I think that's incredibly exciting that we as Europe, that the next generation of Europeans will have a chance to explore the moon. And so, basically supporting that in whatever role I can, either as an astronaut or as an engineer, that's what I'm particularly looking forward to.
Okay, we do have a bit of time before we have some questions from students. I'm curious, as you're about to leave the space station, what will you miss about your everyday life on board the ISS?
Well, a lot of things. For example, this. Being able to fly, being weightless is just so much fun. But otherwise, I'm going to really miss looking out of the window. Sitting in cupola, looking at our beautiful planet is one of the most spectacular and breathtaking things that we can do up here. And so that I would say in particular, and then just, having fun in weightlessness.
That cupola window seems to be the best window, well, not in the world, but in the universe, maybe. It's time for student questions. Our first student is Mikkel Hansen. Please give him a hand.
Thank you. Andreas, my question to you is, what is your advice to students dreaming of going to space, both in terms of career decisions, but also developing personal skills?
Well, the basic requirements to become an astronaut are that you need to have a background in STEM, so in science, technology, engineering, medicine. That's kind of the key thing. You also need to be a good team player. Everything that we do up here is as part of a team, whether it's the team of astronauts on board the space station or the entire team, including the ground teams in mission control that work to support us on a daily basis. Those are the two fundamentals. But otherwise, my advice to any young person is to be flexible and to take those opportunities that arise. It's very easy to fixate on a goal and to think that you know how to reach that goal. But oftentimes in life, it's not the straight line that takes you to the goal. It's the meandering path where you take opportunities that don't seem to be directly related, but yet somehow end up affecting you in a way that takes you closer to your goal. So be flexible, take the opportunities that arise in life, because it's very hard to predict what it is that will lead you eventually to your goal.
Thank you very much.
And our next student question is from Laura Asta Eising.
Yeah. Hi, Andreas. I was wondering what your favorite kind of experiment is to conduct on the ISS.
Well, my favorite experiment would be one where I'm actively participating in the scientific process, where I'm helping to make the discoveries, using my hands. There are so many different experiments up here, ranging from experiments just like that, where we're actually participating in the process, all the way to other experiments where we are essentially, mounting a black box, turning it on, and then letting the experiment run autonomously in the background. But the ones where I'm actively involved are the ones that are my favorite.
Thank you.
All righty. Andreas, thank you so much for taking time to answer questions today. Say hello to all of your colleagues. We wish you safe travels around the planet and back down when that time comes. Give Andreas a big hand.
Well, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you today, and I look forward to seeing many of you hopefully soon when I'm back on Earth.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Stations, we are now resuming operational audio communications.